The sun beat down on the dusty training ground. Sweat beaded on brows, but the soldiers held their rifles steady. Targets loomed at the far end, riddled with holes from earlier volleys. A sense of competition hung in the air, sharp and keen. Each man was determined to prove his mettle. Rounds cracked through the air as each soldier took aim. The ping of metal on metal rang out, a symphony of accuracy. Orders were barked, targets switched, and still the soldiers performed. Confidence grew with each successful shot, a feeling of control amidst the controlled chaos. The exercise had been going smoothly, almost routinely. There was a rhythm to it, a familiarity that bred a sense of security. The men were veterans, each one familiar with the weight of his weapon, the smell of gunpowder, the sound of gunfire. This was their element, and they moved within it with practiced ease. A discordant note shattered the rhythm. A sharp, high-pitched rat-a-tat-tat cut through the air, different from the controlled bursts of the other rifles. Heads turned, eyes searching for the source of the erratic fire. There, at the end of the line, Private Miller's rifle bucked in his hands, spitting fire and fury. The air filled with the whine of ricocheting bullets. Dust kicked up around Miller's feet as his weapon seemed to dance a deadly jig. His face was a mask of shock and disbelief, his finger frozen on the trigger. The other soldiers watched in horror, their own training momentarily forgotten in the face of this sudden chaos. "Cease fire! Cease fire!" The order cut through the pandemonium, but it was lost on Miller and his runaway weapon. Bullets flew wildly, chewing into the ground, pinging off the metal supports of the targets. The air crackled with energy, a deadly storm centered on the lone soldier and his possessed rifle. Instinct took over. The carefully maintained formation dissolved as soldiers dove for cover. Some hit the dirt, others scrambled for the safety of the concrete bunkers that lined the range. The air was filled with the sounds of panicked shouts and the heavy thud of bodies seeking shelter. Miller stood frozen for a heartbeat longer, the rogue weapon still spewing lead. Then, as if realizing his predicament, he hurled the rifle from him, as if it were a venomous snake. The weapon clattered harmlessly to the ground, its deadly song finally silenced. The silence that followed was deafening. Slowly, cautiously, the soldiers emerged from their hiding places. Eyes darted around, scanning for any lingering threat, any sign that the nightmare wasn't over. But the only movement was the dust motes dancing in the afternoon sun, the only sound the ragged gasps of men who had stared death in the face. A hush fell over the training ground. The weight of what had almost happened pressed down on them, heavy and suffocating. The exercise was immediately halted, the day's objective forgotten. The focus now was on Miller, on the smoking gun lying abandoned on the ground, a stark reminder of their brush with disaster. Medics rushed to Miller's side, but the young soldier seemed unharmed. He sat slumped against a bunker, his face pale, his eyes staring blankly ahead. The shock had yet to wear off,